I am Hamilton. Laura J. is who they say is the one that took people through the corridor of uncertainty into the brand new world that we are creating now in the perfect season, which the moon represents cycles. We have to understand, each of us play a role. Each of us play a piece in the game that builds the house of humanity. Hue being inclusive of all colors, creeds, religions, genders, preferences, whatever. Just don't hurt kids. Don't steal innocence. And also, be willing to find the edge. Be willing to find the edge of the comfort zone of the known. To find the top of where you were told that you could go, and then find a way to lift yourself to higher heights by saying, fuck it, let's go. Yes, I swore. SpongeBob SquarePants did a whole episode or a piece in it that was about sentence enhancers, which included swear words. The worse they are, the more vulgar and crude and exciting and delighting it feels sometimes to include it. Naughty. And then we look around to see which adults or who minced. No, that's not the right word. Sometimes we use words that sound good, but they actually don't fit. And do we know that words are spells? That's why they call it spelling. That's why now the AI is getting to spell our words for us. We don't even have to remember how to spell. The AI does it for us. And then the TV freaks out. Papa's watching one of his earth movers or log sawing shows, which is so precious. I love my Papa. He is the one who stopped me from running away when I was so young and pissed off because my brother and cousin were really picking on me, and it was just like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I packed up my little wagon out at my brick house, which is back along the tree line here, and I packed some food and hydration and started walking back to the field. And Papa drives up slow in his old truck like he always does, with his pipe in his mouth, and just looks down. Hey, get in. Like, doesn't ask what I'm doing. I think maybe he did, like, where are you going? And I just looked, and it was like, I don't know. But I'd already wrote a note, actually. I wrote a runaway note downstairs that they needed to treat me better. I was leaving. There have been many times when I have left because I was not well treated, and there have been many times when I stayed until it got to the point where it was my self-esteem that was being disrespected, and that's when I left. And we also have to know that each of us have a tipping point when we are actually willing to take a stand and speak up, like we are being called to do now. As we are learning more about the 5G technology that is making this like a microwave society, that we have a pandemic that is ultimately keeping us all housebound and safely separate from each other and each other's wisdom and knowledge and insight, which is why I'm doing my best to gather individuals in online gatherings, Zoom calls that help us know that we are in flow, because just as I say I am putting out the call, the cat comes. I have been writing a book that has written me and my self-image, which this hair today, this morning I did it live actually. I have nothing to fear, nothing to hide, because ultimately I've already lost it all before. I went into a mental institution, guys, against my will, not realizing that when I called the OPP for help, that then I would become their prisoner. I didn't realize that the very ones that we expected to keep us safe were, to the best of their ability, kind of, mostly. They were doing their job. But that's when the tribal mind's abscondment of personal responsibility comes in and is the threat that we all must consider, especially those of you who are actually working professionals in law enforcement and otherwise, military personnel. You each have an incredibly difficult job to do because you are keeping people in line according to laws and rules that you had to read in order to know how to act. It negates feeling. It makes it a command and order-based society and culture, which is reflective of the cult you are. We have to know that sometimes we are so in the flow that we say things that we've never said before, and it's just like, holy shit, that is completely brand new to me. Thank you for bearing witness to me learning it too, because sometimes that's just what happens when things come to us. We are there to receive it, and David Icke actually shares some of his story in interview part 3 with Brian Rose's London Real episode, that he actually talks about how he became committed to becoming a conspiracy theorist of sorts, someone who is ultimately just a truth teller and a whistleblower, and someone who is connecting other people with puzzle pieces to their piece or their place in the play. It's all about connecting us all to our place in the creative experience. Place with a CE at the end of play. Place. It is our place to play at a creative reality or a creative experience that will create a reality we either enjoy or that we dislike. And how many people, before they were forced to stop working, didn't like the life that they were living? They were living like a robot at a machine-operated factory that they're now hopeful to go back to. And don't get me wrong, this seems so offensive to some, and I'm so sorry if you take it that way. It's really not my intention. I just say to you that you are not non-essential. None of us are non-essential. All of us are essential, but think about the subliminal programming present in telling someone and having them reinforce the reason they stay home is because they are non-essential, which means their pay has been cut, their rent and all their bills are still due. They have living expenses and groceries to pay for, with people eating way more than they ever did before, because before they were at a school and now they literally live next to the kitchen. It's like it's costing everyone a shitload more for their whole families to be at home instead of at schools and in businesses where people were operating and having independence. But soon they're going to also rule out the cash system, so that it becomes a paperless society and we only rely on plastic and chips, which they're going to want to put in us that are already in our phones. We're being tracked, we're being watched. Big Brother is real, it's already live. It's happening now. We have to wake up. We have to wake up to ourselves. And we have to also understand why we allow ourselves to be distracted and swayed different ways based on what others have to say. We have to stop being so eager for attention that we stop what we're doing to talk to a stranger. And yet, we need to connect with strangers, but in a premeditated way so it's not so time-consuming. Figuring out how to connect with people ultimately, be clear on your intention. Be clear on your intention as to why you want to connect. I have an itch to scratch, and so I scratch it. That's what it's like when we, get reached out to by people that want to date you just because you have an online presence and they see you. Well, thank you very much. I love you too. Sincerely, your soul is beautiful, and I wish you much success, but I am not looking to be with anyone. I am happy as I am, and will be happier still when I meet one who can complement what I'm doing with what he's doing. And maybe we can do some things together, magical things, and I can't wait to meet him. But you know what? Right now, I'm totally good where I'm sat at my grandparents' with my crystal, with my phone braced up against a crystal, which is also a magnifier, an amplifier, and understanding about crystal magic, helps us simply attune ourselves to the magic of the nature kingdom and the fact that we are sat underneath of a full moon, seemingly, nearly. And the full moon is representative of endings, and with an ending comes a new beginning. And with this new beginning, which I said at exactly 10:10, I release myself from this commitment in order to write in the book that I will be bringing to you and want you to be part of my... Oh God, I'm so excited. I lost my train of thought. I want you to be part of my book club launch. I want you to be part of my book launch, not my book club launch, just my book launch. Although we can certainly have a book club if you would like. Comment below and let me know that it would be worthwhile. And the first book that I would recommend that we start with is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, because it's simply essential for us to understand that we are living in the mitote, the dream, that we have four agreements that we make to ourselves, and the agreements are ultimately reflective of the belief systems that direct the neurocircuitry of our brain, and ultimately that determines our thinking. And our thinking determines our outcomes because they direct our behaviors, which are created by our actions that are created by our behaviors. It all comes back to the cause in this cause and effect universe that we live in. We operate under a universe of universal laws. It is time for us to begin to appreciate what we actually have instead of what we have lost. The old way is lost, my friends. I'm sorry to say, life before the pandemic no longer exists. You will go back to your jobs, to your lives, as it was before for a time until the next wave hits. And when the next wave hits, when the next wave hits, that is when we are going to be put into lockdown, but this time faster, they say. This just sounds like an interesting story. Maybe I'll tell it that way next time. What do you say? In my book, I'm going to actually break down what it means to become a peaceful inner warrior, and understanding how to protect yourself, not from a place of being in fear, but from being in a place of faith, how to actually strengthen your immunity to the outside circumstances by becoming a peaceful inner warrior. Yeah, that's right, baby. That's what I feel like I'm here to help people with. Not because I have the answer, but simply because I have the connections that help us come out of the shadow. Look how my face has become so dark. And now that I notice, I will take you into the light. But before, I didn't notice because it wasn't important enough. Enrich Your Journey just started a live video. Papa's mood. Oh my god, so funny. Okay. Guys. The light is on, my hair is dark and bright. I could have touched up my roots, but next time I'll do better. I wanted to make sure my blonde got covered and think I did a good job. I'm not opposed to singing some songs to you just to say you may be a little cray-cray, but ultimately that just means different. You beat to your own drum just like I do, and you do, and we do. Together make it loud, make it loud, and we can join in one verse, the universe, the one song that is this game in this lifetime. What if we joined in the name of peace? What if we joined in the name of peace? Someone invited Mother Teresa to a protest for anti-war rallies that they thought she would definitely appreciate, but she said no, I'll never come, but host a peace rally and I'll be there to play and wave my flag. It's time for you to know that you are made to shine. You're made to shine. Oh yeah, oh yeah, you are made to shine. It is time for me to release myself officially. But I brought you out of the darkness into here and here, which is like a mini universe on its own. And yet, if you don't comment below, I don't know what you're thinking. So while you watch the rest of this, please type your response. I'd love to know what you got from this. What does it mean to you and for you? What will you do with it? I encourage you to act. Those are the most important letters in the law of attraction. In the law of attraction, you need action, baby. That's mainstream. You've got to share a picture of yourself where you go in order for people to know who you are. I just got that text in that moment, and now I encourage you to ask yourself one question. Who do you choose to be in this moment? Right now, who do you choose to be? Right now, who do you choose to be in the future? And how can you act now to become it more assuredly? I hope you have a good time. So, I hope that you will activate your throat chakra, your center of self-expression. From an energetic perspective, a blue, dark blue, royal blue. Like the crystal that rose through over the Titanic in the legendary film that made her and Leonardo DiCaprio infamous in Hollywood. And yet, then that takes us down yet another rabbit hole. And tonight, I say to you, I'm offering you the keys to your dream life. Your dream life is the dream, babe. Didn't you know? You can be listening to the noise, or you can be growing yourself, educating yourself, informing yourself, listening to other perspectives and discerning, but not just only listening to one avenue, one outlet. Don't just watch the TV and choose certain programs from one media and then say that everything or all of what is on the internet is garbage and hogwash just because it's not reported in the mainstream. And if it's a new idea, then it doesn't make sense because you like your old life and you want to keep it. It doesn't work that way. You're going to lose it one way or the other. Not risking it is a risk and gamble in itself, except for you're assuredly to lose control. Just like I lost control when I went into a mental institution in the fall of 2019 because I couldn't come back to a contracted place with nothing to show for my experience, so I needed to turn it into something magnificent. If you're looking for like a surface brief that's deep but yet only partly accurate, because there was also the aspect of I felt like I had a bigger story to share than what I knew how to do, and I ultimately felt like somebody else should be made aware. Everybody else needed to be aware. I shared as many puzzle pieces as I could with as many people as I could as I drove back and made calls with my Bluetooth not using any hands, so doing it all completely legal. I love my AI in my car that allows me to call people that ultimately I don't have to press any buttons, I just say call, and then it does. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Isn't that scary? When we don't have to call anybody and don't remember anybody's number. That's what would happen. I knew my key people, my key three, my grandparents and my parents. I knew their number off by heart, so I could call them. But anybody else, it was I couldn't connect with. I could only ask the other three to contact the others. And ultimately, they had my phone, so I couldn't give people numbers. And if they take away your Facebook or your YouTube or your Instagram, where all your followers are, they cut you off from your lifeline. When you become isolated, you become like an ant that dies on its own. We can't afford to be like ants that die on our own. Otherwise, we'll be sentenced to a life where the sawmill and that sound is ultimately of killing the potential. No. There's so much potential. Regardless, you can't kill potential. You can just bury it. But you bury it with a body because potential is always there. So as my mom said, in a very real conversation she had to have with a friend, because like I reached such low spaces and other people's kids did too, or have, that she was talking with, and she was just like, any time there is breath in the body, there is hope. As soon as there is no breath, there is no hope. And it's true, and we need to make sure that we maintain hope together, which is why I have connected with Sergeant Ken, and now on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time bi-weekly. Every other week we gather where he highlights some of the people who he admires and, wants to help them share their perspective, their experience of going from who they were into who they've become, and that in-between process that they acknowledge was not easy. Rebirthing yourself is never pain-free, right? We all have growing pains. And our old life is ultimately the cost. The new one is what we gain. It's just whether we are willing to stick with it and keep going with it, regardless of how little an influence, an impact, or an income that we make off of it. And then we must realize too that even the monetary system is changing in a big way. So money is wonderful, and they're going to change things in big ways. So we have to become more sensible and understanding that the real currency is skill. And what can we do more than just use our body? What can we do with our minds? How can we train ourselves at a higher level? And that's where becoming a peaceful inner warrior comes from. The Peaceful Inner Warrior system that I've created has a special practice that ultimately includes and incorporates our holy human nature that helps us become the centerpiece of the toroidal field that becomes like an apple around an apple core, and we are the center. Our seeds are the thoughts that we think. When we realize that we are the apple and the apple core, then it makes sense to say that you are the apple of my eye. Just put that one together. Having some fun with you now. Going to say officially now, I've said it twice, thrice is the magic ticket, so pay attention for the next video, subscribe, share, grab a key of your own potential, and touch not anyone else's, lest you receive the karma back to you tenfold that you receive. Ultimately, what you dish out, you get back. That is not a curse, it is a promise. It's a universal law. The law of karma is you get back what you receive. Give and get. We all know it. But you can't give to get, because then that changes the energy of both the gift and the receiver. The receiver's experience of it, right? All right, that one knocked me aback, lost my balance. Why are all the keys next to the Febreze? I guess I'll have to come back the next time to find out. Toodles.